How's it going, everyone? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Swanee, and today I wanted to go over my thoughts on The Outer Worlds 2. Now, I've been playing it for about 20-ish hours so far. I mean, I've been playing it as much as I can. I've been just so unbelievably busy with the Helldivers update, and, I'm getting ready to cover Arc Raiders, and there's been Battlefield 6, and there's a lot of games that have come out lately, so I've been trying my best to play Outer Worlds 2. My only complaint with the game so far is that I just don't have more time to play it. And I've been having so much fun with the Outer Worlds 2 that I just wanted to make a mini review video. I just want to go over a couple of my thoughts that I've jotted down for you guys. And I really think game's something special. So I wanted to talk about it. So I wanted to say here at the beginning of the video that I am a huge fan of open world RPGs, games like Oblivion, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, which is very similar to The Outer Worlds 2. Skyrim is one of my favorite video games of all time. As you can see, I have a helmet here, and up here I have the Skyrim logo up in the corner of my room. So I'm a big fan of RPGs. So I've had this RPG itch that's just been needing to be scratched for the longest time now. And the Oblivion remaster just didn't quite scratch that itch, but Outer Worlds 2 has been scratching that itch. Outer Worlds 2 has a ton of things that I've just been wanting to see in a video game. So this isn't going to be an in-depth review. This is just me kind of rambling my thoughts. I've jotted down some things that I wanted to talk about that I really enjoyed. Starting with the exploration, I really like the exploration and finding loot in Outer Worlds 2, and I like getting rewarded for exploring in all these RPGs. So like doing things like pickpocketing, just random NPCs. I've been getting a ton of really cool items, and I've been making a lot of money by going around pickpocketing. So pickpocketing's fun. Reading terminals often leads to different clues and side quests and stuff. So it pays off to sit down and read through the terminals and like learn the lore. Going to unmarked places on the map that have nothing to do with side quests or the main objective will often lead to cool items, which I love in these RPGs. So say there's some random house just out in the middle of nowhere. It has nothing to do with any of the story. I have no reason to go there. The game doesn't tell me to go there. But because I went there, I got rewarded with something cool. It was either some additional credits, so I, could buy something I want from the store, or it's some sort of cool weapon or cool piece of gear that I could use. So the open world exploration in Outer Worlds 2, I feel like is pretty good, and I've been enjoying it so far. Now, I will say there are some gaps, like the maps being as big as they are. There's a lot of space where there's not much going on. So like traveling from point A to point B, you might stumble across like a couple random enemies to kill. But other than that, it's just kind of walking around. So I do wish there was some sort of like side vehicle that you could get to make just going from point A to point B a little bit faster. But that's honestly kind of just a nitpick. You do unlock some fast travel points, so as you're exploring and you discover a new area, you can then fast travel to it, which, makes it a little bit better when you're trying to go back and forth. But when you're trying to explore new areas, there are some stretches of a bit of nothingness in between, but that's kind of just honestly a small gripe at this point. So next, I want to get into why I think Outer Worlds 2 is so special, and it's because of just how many choices you have to go about doing all of these side quests and stuff, which is very similar to how things were in Fallout New Vegas. Now, I only played Fallout New Vegas once, and it was years ago, so I don't remember all that much about it. I just remember that there was a lot of choices and there was multiple endings, and I know that that game has like a cult following. So if you liked Fallout New Vegas, I guarantee you're going to like this game. But anyway, I want to talk about just how many ways you can go about doing things in Outer Worlds 2, and this is what really kind of blew me away. So, for example, there's like 4 or 5 different ways to approach everything. And I don't just mean the main missions, I mean the side missions and the random things that are hidden just in the environment, like environmental puzzles. There's like 6 different ways you could go about completing this puzzle depending on your build. So the replayability is huge for the Outer Worlds 2. With most RPGs, you can start a new game, you can have a new character, and you can have some different experiences, but for a lot of the story stuff, it's all kind of scripted, and inevitably you're going to have basically the same experience with the main story. But for Outer Worlds 2, I can see like you could start a new character and have a completely different build, and you're going to get different dialogue options. You're going to have different experiences in the missions. You're going to solve puzzles in different ways. So I really appreciate that about Outer Worlds 2. I'm like honestly kind of blown away by how many choices you have in this game. So for an example, there's a main story mission you have to accomplish at some point, but to get to the main story objective, there's a bridge you have to cross. Now, this bridge technically isn't even part of the mission, but it's an obstacle along the way to completing the main mission. So to cross this bridge, there's like 5 different ways that I could find. I think there's probably even more. You go to this bridge and you can talk to the person guarding the bridge. So you can either do a side quest for this person that's guarding the bridge, and they will let you cross the bridge if you do this side quest for them. An alternative is like I could sacrifice one of my companions that was with me as like a tribute and basically kill my companion as an alternative way to cross the bridge. Like that will please the guard if I give up the person that's working for me because, you know, they're enemies. They're from like different factions. They don't like each other. I can sacrifice my companion and then still thus cross the bridge, bypassing the side quest. So you could either do the side quest or you could skip the side quest and give up a companion. But if you don't want to do either one of those options, there's like 3 different paths you could take to sneak by and use stealth to like lower the bridge yourself and just cross the bridge without even fighting anybody. And then, of course, what I chose was I just went guns blazing and I killed everyone and just crossed the bridge. But I found in just that little instance of crossing this bridge, there was at least 5 different ways that I saw that you could go about crossing this bridge. And this was just a little side thing that you could do along the way. It took maybe 20 minutes for me to do this, and I was just so impressed by having all these different options. Another thing that I want to talk about that's closely related to that is that this game adapts and remembers your choices. So, for example, say you have a line of dialogue and you help an NPC at the beginning of the game, you might run into that same NPC later on in the story, and they will remember you and what options you chose in the dialogue, and you will have different dialogue options depending on your choice from at the beginning of the game, which is crazy. And I was watching some other reviewers and stuff, and they were talking about like some of the late game stuff and some of the like NPCs you interact with. I saw in their footage they had an NPC with them that I decided to kill, and like that NPC was important to that mission that they were doing. So that's an outcome that I'm not going to get to experience just because I decided to go guns blazing and shoot up an entire room. If you like choice and you like the feeling of your choice mattering and you like the option of having different builds and having your main story and your playthrough be different from everybody else, then I feel like you're really going to like Outer Worlds 2 just for that alone. I was so impressed with the amount of decisions. And like I said, like normally when it comes to making decisions in video games, they give you this false feeling of choice. Like it'll come across as they'll give you like 3 different dialogue options, but ultimately they all lead to the same outcome. And that's just not really the case with Outer Worlds 2. Like if you choose option A has like 6 different branches that go their own ways. And if you choose option B, it also has like 4 or 5 different paths that you can take. It is very, very impressive, and I was having a ton of fun with it. And there was a couple times where I would like go back and reload my save and just choose a different option to see how the outcome was different. I was like, okay, I actually like this option better. I'm going to go with this path instead. So I think if you like that, and if you like that about like Fallout New Vegas, you're definitely going to like that here. Another thing that I really also like, which is kind of related, is the perks and the skills. There are so many instances in this game where, let's say you enter a room and there's a puzzle, or there's a door that's locked, or a chest that's locked, and it will require you to have like Explosives, level 3. That's the only way you can get into the chest. Well, hate to break it to you, but you just can't open this chest unless you have either explosives level 3 or you go and find the key. And if you find the key, like sometimes the key is only going to be found on said person that owns the chest. Well, if you don't have pickpocketing, you can't steal the key unless you kill the person. So you could either kill the person and take the key, pickpocket the key off of them, or have explosives level 3 and blow your way through the chest or the door. And this happened so many times throughout the game where there was like a dialogue option that was grayed out that I just couldn't have access to. So I decided to go level up my character and then come back to that NPC that I had to talk to. And then once I had the certain skill and I had access to that new dialogue option, it unlocked a whole different scenario and it gave me a different reward than what I would have if I just didn't take the time to level up my character. So the perks and the skills really feel impactful and it holds a lot of weight to them. So if you decide to put a ton of points into like medical knowledge, anytime there's a scenario where someone's hurt or there's like a doctor that needs help, you're going to be very useful in those situations versus like say you put all your points into just being strong and taking a lot of hits. Well, you're not going to be useful for anything science related or medical related or any of that stuff. So you're going to have to tackle those problems in a different way. And that to me is just so cool. There's so many things about Outer Worlds 2 that I would love to see get like intertwined with a Bethesda game. Like I want to see the open worldness and the storytelling of like the next Elder Scrolls game mixed with the amount of choices that you get in this game. Another quick thing I want to bring up is a slight jab at Starfield, but I like that everything is handcrafted and it's not procedurally generated. So if you do go exploring and you come across like a side town or a side house or a side objective, or you're just exploring different buildings, all the loot is going to be placed in places that make sense. So the food items are going to be in kitchens, and you're going to find extra ammo in armories, and you will find like hidden little Easter eggs in places that make sense. So like I found a random fisherman village, and inside that village was loot that kind of made sense for it being a fisherman village. So I appreciate that everything is handcrafted and it makes it feel a lot more alive versus when you play Starfield and you go to like the 20th outpost in the middle of nowhere and it's an exact replica of the 20 previous outposts and everything looks exactly the same, and there's none of that. Everything feels unique and placed in spots that make sense, and it feels like they took their time, and it just feels really good. I think this is a really good game. I don't know how the game ends, obviously, because I've only played like 20 hours, and I'm still in like the first area, like the first town. I know there's still a lot of the game that I have yet to see, so I suppose the game could get worse. But from what I've played, I've been really enjoying it, and I just simply wish I had more time to play it because I really want to probably sit down and play this game multiple times. I definitely think this is one of those RPGs that is going to make you want to play it multiple times. But if I had to be picky and I had to name something that I'm not really a big fan of, so far it's just like the companion system doesn't seem all that well thought out. Same with the like the UI and some of the weapons that I've gotten so far. A lot of it feels kind of just tacked on and it's not that in depth. So like I don't really care to level up my companions all that much because they're just not that useful, not as useful as I'd like them to be. But that's just a nitpick. I honestly, it's not that big of a deal because I've just been having so much fun with the dialogue and the story stuff and the side stuff and the exploration that I've not really cared as much about the like the companions not mattering all that much and the UI elements being a little wonky. I can look that stuff over, but that's honestly the only complaints I really have with the game so far. Another thing about the game that isn't really the game's fault, it's just Microsoft in general, the state of Microsoft. They wanted to charge $80 for this game. You know, $80 is a high price for any video game, so I'm glad that they didn't make it $80. With it being $70, I would honestly recommend getting it for $70. If you are a fan of this franchise and you have $70 to spend. If you're not going to get it through Game Pass, I know they raised the price of Game Pass, but if you find it on sale or if you happen to have Game Pass, I think it's worth getting because you don't have to spend any additional money. But if you're on the fence about it, maybe wait till it goes on sale on Steam or something. But if you're really a diehard fan and you really enjoyed the first game, I would honestly say it's worth $70. I've probably had $70 worth of fun in just the 20 hours that I've put into it so far. Another thing I want to mention real quick before I go is the performance. For the most part, it's been pretty decent performance, but I have had a few hiccups here and there. I did play a little bit on my new Xbox ROG Ally X, the new handheld console that came out, and it runs surprisingly well. I did have to crank the graphics down a bit, and it looks, a little blurry, but for it being a handheld, I was actually getting pretty lost in it. Like I would sit down and play it for a couple hours at a time, and it would just fly by like that. So I was actually having a pretty good time. So if you do have like a Steam Deck or the ROG Ally, I do think it is one of those games that fits pretty well on the handheld devices. But that is going to do it for my thoughts on the Outer Worlds 2. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Let me know if you like this style of video. I know it's different from what I've been doing on my channel, but I want to switch things up. I'm tired of making just like the tips and tricks videos and that kind of stuff. I want to sit down and just talk about video games. So that's what I'm doing. I don't expect this video to get very many views. That's just the way it is. It's more about having fun than it is the views at this point. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, then consider giving me a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you all in the next video. So bye-bye.